Welcome to the Heidi B Show. I'm your host, Heidi B. I'm so excited to have Kelly Brush joining me today. Kelly is a doula and birth educator. And basically, I don't know, I feel like you are like the be all end all of birthing information. So you are a wealth of knowledge around this stuff. I'm so excited to have you on the show. We got connected via a good mutual friend of ours, Krista Lane, over at Noelle Estelle Creatives. And I'm just thrilled to have you. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
This is really cool. Okay, so it's been a minute since I did. Actually, I'm releasing an episode today for listeners about latching techniques for breastfeeding. I had a girlfriend of mine that I know in another space. I'll hop on for that. But it's been a minute. Other than that, it's been a minute since we talked about like some of this maternal wellness and birthing stuff. So I'm really excited about this. I'm wondering if you can start by telling me a little bit about how you found yourself in this space and how you've created the life and the business that you've got for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like most business owners and entrepreneurs, it's always a journey that has lots of starts and stops. And my story is no different. But when, hindsight is 2020, right? And when I think back to like, what was my thing when I was a kid? What was the thing that really fired me up? Where was my hobbies? And I struggled finding hobbies. Like all my friends are like, I love drama and I'm basketball, and I did all the things. But the one thing that really fired me up is that I was a peer health educator when I was in high school. And so I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. So that just disclaimer, I recognize this kind of opportunity wasn't available for most high schoolers. But I actually had a class where I was trained to teach my peers about like birth control and
no way. That's so
like
cool.
Sexually transmitted diseases. And I would take girls to the teen clinic and help them get set up on birth control. And it was like a curriculum, part of the curriculum. And it was something I loved doing in high school. And that was my start into public health, women's health, and all of that. I studied psychology and got my master's in counseling and kind of went like more of a traditional route for a while. I think when we're young that we like see certain clear paths and like try them. But like for me, I also was always pretty entrepreneurial too. And so once I started having my babies, I have now a 5-year-old and an almost 8-year-old. And I had doulas at both of my births. But that's when things started to click for me, that like the helping space around birth, pregnancy, postpartum was definitely it. I also was like always the friend that everyone went to with their questions about birth, babies, pregnancy. And I just love it. Like I'll talk to you for hours about it and it's nothing for me. I'm just loving it. And so we moved around a lot due to my husband's job, but I finally was able to focus on the doula business full time. And it's what I've been doing ever since. And I love it. I love it.
I love it. Well, I think it's so incredible. That's really cool. Like being able to look back and see that your interest in public health really started as a teenager. And I think that's really awesome that you went to a high school that had that opportunity for you. I'm curious for some of my listeners who might not know what a doula is. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about what a doula is and like really about what you do.
Yeah. Well, I actually just saw this quote on Instagram yesterday that I thought is perfect. So a doula, I don't catch babies, I hold mothers.
Yes, I saw that you posted that. It's so good.
It's perfect because I'm not a medical professional. And I think that's the first thing to know about doulas, if you're not aware of it, is we are not health professionals. We're not the people that are there for the medical care of you and your baby. We are there for emotional support. We're there for teaching, education, and also advocacy too. And just like helping you understand kind of what to expect from the birth process and also the hospital system, if you're going into a hospital, or how to work with your provider, good questions to ask. So lots of that, like navigating everything. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm there with my clients starting from, and most of them hire me like around 20, 25, maybe 30 weeks. And so I'm there having points of contact throughout the pregnancy too. And I do a lot of prenatal education. And then, yeah, there for the entire birth too, and help you with like first signs of labor, when to go to the hospital, when to call your provider, all of that. So it's a pretty wild job.
I love that. I think it would be so fun. It's like you get to be in like the most exclusive moment. Like you get to be there for the most exclusive moments. Like nobody else, like I haven't birthed any children, but I've watched enough like TV to know that like nobody gets to be in there except like mom and dad and like maybe an in-law and you. Yeah. What a special and like sacred thing to get to experience. Like it must like just have your adrenaline must just go. Does it go through the roof or does it ever get like, has it become mundane in any way?
No, no two birth is ever the same, not mundane at all. Birth is a lot of hurry up and wait kind of stuff, can feel urgent, or beforehand you think like, will I have my baby in the car? Like, do we have time? And actually there can be a lot of just like pause, waiting, breaks, absence of discomfort along the way. And so there is an element of calmness balanced with then like immense adrenaline and a rush at the peak of moments. But yeah, it is an honor to be, I always say this, like, it is such an honor to be invited into that intimate space with a person or a couple together that, you know, might not include anyone else in the world into their most inner feelings, thoughts, fears, anxieties, joys, concerns, everything. I'm privy to all of that. And I don't take it lightly.
Yeah. I'm curious. Do you stay around for the whole process, or like, is there at any point you say like, okay, like I'm removing, like I'm done now. And then like, but you stay for the whole thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, I definitely am there by the time active labor has kicked in. So that's usually when my clients feel like they need some added support and, want somebody there. And so I'll either meet them at their house and we can travel together to wherever they're giving birth, or I meet them right at where they're giving birth, or if they're birthing at home, I'll just, go to their house. So yeah, I meet them there and then I'm there the whole time. And I mean, that's ranged from like showing up 40 minutes before baby's born to being at 30+ hour births. So
I'm curious. I want to know, is there like, do you have like a bag of tricks that you bring? Do you have like I almost am envisioning like a doctor's bag. Do you have something that you bring with you? Is there stuff that you take to every birth, no matter what? For those of you that are listening, Kelly just got up from her chair. She's got a backpack. It looks like tactical gear. I love this.
Yeah. So, people can't see what I'm pulling out here, but I have a great Instagram post and reel all about what I keep in my doula bag. Yeah. And yeah, I would call it like a great bag of tricks here. I've got my portable fan. I've got my heating pad. My daughter's favorite thing, I got my pack of honey sticks. This is a great energy boost for labor. I mean, I got like birth scarf. I've got evidence-based information about all the hospital interventions. I mean, yeah, I come prepared.
I love it. I think that's amazing. One of the things, that's actually a beautiful transition to my next question, which is that one of the things that you're adamant about, that is one of the services that you offer, I think it's a freebie that you deliver, is a birth plan. So can you tell me a little bit about, and for the people who are out there giving birth, why should somebody have a birth plan?
Well, everybody needs a birth plan. I am adamant about that. No matter how you envision your birth going, a birth plan is useful and productive for all people. It definitely serves more than just being a piece of paper. Maybe something relatable to some of your audience too, who aren't pregnant or aren't yet, or are more business owners. Would you start a business without a business plan? Right?
I mean,
some of you might.
But a birth plan is very useful. I would imagine that it gives people a ton of like feelings, a sense. I would imagine it helps with the anxiety, right? To be like, okay, well, at least we have a birth plan. We've got a game plan of where we're going to go.
Yeah. Well, it's a birth plan is actually just a tool for getting educated about your birth options,
Oh,
right? And
love that.
it really helps also to give you a gut check if you've hired the right provider. Because in the end of the day, there's still actually a lot that we don't know, like in the medical community about birth, even just the basic physiology of birth. And so medical providers approach the same situation differently. Because there are pieces of birth that are subjective. And unless you specify your preferences for what you would like to have happen to your body or your baby's body, your provider is just going to go ahead with their standard protocols that are based on a mixture of evidence-based information, but also based on where they were trained, the experience they've had, and also personal bias, which there is a lot. So yeah, bias is very real and alive in birth. I mean, if you look at maternal outcomes, you can see that it's pretty poor in the United States. And if you are a woman of color and you're giving birth in this country, your outcomes are far, like 4 times more risky than if you're a white woman. And so that's not because physiology is different. It's because of the system, provider bias, racism, all of that. So the whole deal with the birth plan is it's not about controlling your birth or saying like, this will happen for sure. It's about becoming aware that you actually do have some choice and agency and that there are benefits and risks to it. And that you can find a provider that matches more with your preferences. And it's really common to change providers after doing a birth plan.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So it actually provides a roadmap for advocacy is what I'm hearing you say, that it gives you an opportunity to see like, okay, where do I need to be asking some questions? Where do I need to advocate for myself? Where does my opinion about this differ from my providers? And like, is that difference enough that I need to switch providers? So that's amazing. I want to know, what are like the top 3 things that need to be in someone's birth plan, or the top 3 things that you suggest people kind of surface and look at when they're assessing how well they match up with their provider?
Yeah. So number 1 is I have everybody who works with me include an informed consent statement on their birth plan. A lot of people don't realize that they have legal birthing rights in the hospital system, and it is required that medical providers adhere to them. Through informed consent. And informed consent doesn't mean just saying yes to the things that happen to your body. It means knowing why you're saying yes or why you're saying no. That's the informed piece. And so I teach my clients, I teach anybody that goes through my birth planning mini course all about what informed consent means and what that looks like in the birthing system. And then I offer some templates for like how to customize an informed consent statement for your birth plan. And it sends a message too, that you're aware that you do intend to give your informed consent, or your informed refusal about all the things that could be offered to you along the way. So that needs to be included. Number 2, no matter how you plan to birth, you're most likely going to have a part of your birth where you're pushing your baby out. And this is a stage of labor that often gets just kind of like as an afterthought, but it actually has major implications for your health and well-being over time. Like when we look at your pelvic floor health and your sexual health over time, there's a lot of evidence that shows favorably towards certain positions to push your baby out in. And having like there's a difference between coached and pushing, like we see in the movies, everybody kind of yelling at her to push, push. That can happen in real life, but it also doesn't have to happen. There's something called self-led pushing, that the mother just pushes upon her instincts and sensations. And it can lead to less tearing in childbirth and just like better outcomes for mom and baby. So there's just a lot to know about the pushing stage and a lot of evidence that have implications on your health over time.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I always say include some preferences about a cesarean birth just in case. Because in the US, I think our rate right now is about 22% of births are a cesarean birth. And so like 1 in 5, right, might end up in a cesarean. And so there are some things you can indicate, like you want skin to skin immediately after the birth, or some hospitals have like a clear drape so that, or like lower the drape so you can actually watch your baby get born. You don't see anything crazy, but you see that moment, you know, of your baby coming out. And so these are just like little things that you can indicate a preference for on your birth plan.
Oh my God, I had no idea. I mean, those 3 things alone, I know that a birth plan is more detailed than that, but those 3 things alone sound like they could really help somebody just like get grounded around the entire experience and really change the way that they experience birthing a baby. So I think that is just brilliant. And we're going to link it in the show notes because you have a freebie. Is it a freebie or is it a service? I can't remember what you're doing with that right now.
Yeah, so I have a freebie. It's a birth plan template that you can access through Canva. So you can pop into Canva, and I have placeholders for all of the stages of birth. So everything from like early labor to pushing to postpartum, placenta delivery, newborn procedures, and cesarean options. And it comes with a checklist too, because not everybody realizes like what are the procedures that could happen to me at each of these stages. So it comes with a checklist, and it's free. And then I also offer a little mini course that you can purchase along with the birth plan. That is me teaching you some like mindset stuff about how to approach your birth plan, where to go to get evidence-based information on all of these birth interventions, and then a decision-making model so you can, you know, decide like what you want.
Amazing. So we'll definitely link all that stuff in the show notes, and everybody can grab it when they need it. I'm curious. I want to talk a little bit about the 4th trimester, because that is something that kind of like drops off the radar. I mean, there is, I don't know. I would say like some people just think like, oh, you just have your baby and now like things are back to normal or whatever. I mean, anyone who's had a baby probably doesn't think that way, but like, you know, some of us out here are not. And so my question would be like, what are your best tips for postpartum stuff? I mean, I know that the postpartum period is so personal, and so the challenges that people face there are so unique, but in the most general sense, like what are some recommendations that you give to every woman in the postpartum space or in that 4th trimester?
Yeah, there's a lot to consider, a lot. I have a blog post about this, actually. It's questions to ask yourself while you're pregnant about your postpartum. So it's just like some sort of like processing, thinking kind of stuff. But the highlights from that is, number 1, create a cocoon for yourself in those initial weeks and months of postpartum. And really just like going inside, quieting down your life, clearing your schedule wherever possible, asking for help, maybe in new ways, maybe saving up some money too, if you're in a position to invest in some extra help during that time, and just like have a lot of reverence for that very special time to bond, recover. And what happens is when people do take that time, their reserves, their energy reserves, and just like their physical health, their cup gets full again, right? And so then if you're on maternity leave or returning back into the world, you're just entering it from a place of less depletions so that you can sustain the real life after postpartum a little bit more.
I'm like, wait a minute, maybe everybody needs a cocoon. Maybe everybody needs a
But especially after such a physical thing, and especially after a first baby, because you have a physical change, but you're also all of a sudden in this new identity as a mother and a parent. And it's, it can be jarring. It can be jarring. So that's one. I also say research ahead of time the postpartum professionals in your area, because you know, these are like lactation consultants, pelvic floor physical therapist, nurse breastfeeding groups, mom groups, yoga classes, whatever is like going to help you with your rehabilitation or just like your transition. If you're nursing your baby, sleep consultants, knowing that ahead of time so that you're not scrambling in the middle of the night, Googling because you're panicked and you didn't get like the best referral, right?
Ellie, you know what you are doing. I love that. So you're not frenzied, like in this frenzied energy of, oh shit, I gotta find somebody 3 days ago. I'm going on no sleep. Baby's frazzled. I'm frazzled. Yeah, you're probably doing better work if you have some of those lined up in the pre-delivery space than trying to figure it out in the aftermath.
Yeah. And then do I have time for one more?
Oh yeah, of course. Yes.
So a lot of the clients that work with me are like what I would call A+ students. Maybe you're familiar with this type. It's like the gold star, perfectionist, like check, organized. I give my all in everything that I do. Great. That it can be a wonderful way to approach life. But when you approach motherhood that way, it is the quickest way to burn out.
Yeah.
It is the quickest way to burn out. And so I teach my clients how to be B+ students. And I say B+, and I try to do this just in general, right? Because I'm also an A+ in recovery kind of person. Being just like a B+ student of motherhood is more sustainable over time. And like just remembering that your needs matter too, and that taking care of yourself so that you can keep showing up till your baby's 18 and older. This is the long haul here, right? This isn't just like launching a business or going to college for a couple years. Like this is the long haul. And so being intentional and giving yourself a lot of grace goes a long way.
Oh, I'm so into that. I love that so much. I want to know, you mentioned earlier, like what an honor it is to be invited into these moments and these spaces. I'm curious though, like, what is it like supporting people through this process? How draining is it? What does it take to recover from it? Like, what's your like maximum client load like? I mean, just tell me a little bit about like what kind of, I don't know if I'm really thinking about like the toll that it takes on you, but just like how it feels to be in this supportive role and like what it takes to do what you do.
Yeah, being a birth doula is not for the weary. It is a lifestyle job that is not always glamorous. You need really thick skin to be a doula and a strong stomach because birth is not tidy.
Yeah.
You can't be queasy. You can't be afraid of all the bodily things. A lot of people don't really realize when they think about like what a doula does is that we are on call 24/7 for our clients. Most birth happens in the middle of the night. And the reason for that is that's when the body's most relaxed and feels safe. And like think about animals, they like go in a cave to birth or under the cat goes in the box. Like we need to be in this quiet sort of zone. So birth happens at night and it's pretty intense. It's a lot. So yes, it's rewarding. It's raw. It's an honor, but it does take a physical toll on the doula. So some of the ways I manage that is I keep a lower client load than I would say other full-time doulas. I do consider myself a full-time doula. This is my full-time job. But I take like anywhere from 2 to 4 clients a month. And I have great backup systems. So us doulas make friends with each other and we help each other out. We have people on call in case we're at another birth, right?
Right.
I've never had to call my backup and I've never been called by a backup, but knowing that that's there is really comforting. I also take 2 months in the summer off from doula work. And that's so that I can recharge, be fresh again for the next year, spend some time with my family because I do actually love them and want to spend some time with them. And can travel, right, and go places. So that's a bit how I manage it.
Oh, I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. I am curious. Entrepreneurship is such a roller coaster. So what keeps you in the game? And what, if anything, would have you be like, fuck it, I'm going to go get a job in a cubicle, this doula life, this uncertainty, it's too much for me. So what are your thoughts on those two sides of the coin?
Yeah. Well, what keeps me in the game is considering the alternative. I have been there, done that, right? And working for other people or working for jobs for like practicality's sake, that just didn't light me up, fill my soul, like feel like my calling, right? So when I am frustrated, I just go there. And I'm like, well, what's the alternative here? And the advice I always hear from entrepreneurs ahead of me is like, if you just do one thing, it's don't give up.
Yeah.
And I just tell myself that. I say, okay, just don't throw in the towel. Don't give up, keep going. And when scarcity mindset sets in, which happens a lot, I just try to wait and see if I feel that way the next day. And so far, the scarcity, fear kind of stuff, it, like many hard emotions, do actually just pass through my body, and it's okay. But if it ever doesn't, I guess I'll just deal with it then. The thing that makes me want to, like, my worst days with entrepreneurship is when I get too hung up on vanity metrics. And this is something I'm working on with like a mindset, just like approach of letting go of the likes, the follows, the comments, the subscribes, and trying to let it go on good days. Because when I get hung up on that, it makes this not fun. And obviously this is not what we're doing it for. This isn't a popularity contest. We're not in high school, just trying to let that go. But a good example of the universe kind of giving me a good, gentle reminder on this topic. So I launched a YouTube channel like a couple of months ago, and it is so hard. Like YouTube is saturated with birth content, right? And it's just me. I don't have like a marketing team or a video editor. I'm just like a girl with a screen, right? And a mic. And so, but I also I know not everybody can afford a private doula. Doulas are not accessible to everybody. And that is frustrating, and it bothers me. And so if I can share knowledge and make what I share accessible, I try. And I really pour my heart and soul into that YouTube channel. But my views are really low, and I'm just like, can't figure out the algorithm, and even took a course and but last week, I got a new client, and that client told me that when she was researching doulas, she came to my YouTube because it's linked from my website, and she watched my YouTube and loved the way I talked, and she hired me to be her doula.
Oh, so good. You know what? I love this story because it's actually something that a coach of mine always reminds me of, which is that our content, we can get so wrapped up. Part of the getting wrapped up in the vanity metrics is being like in the moment with our content. And she just always reminds me, like, all the content that you create, it's out there working for you behind the scenes while you're sleeping, while you're helping someone give birth, while you're living your life. It's actually almost like, I don't know if you are a gambler at all, but there are these games, in casinos where it's like, there's a bunch of quarters and there's like this little pusher, and it like moves all the quarters like a millimeter. It doesn't even move them very far. And you put the quarter in hoping to like get all the quarters to fall off the ledge, right? And she's like, you just always got to, her name is Melanie Childers. She's incredible, but she's like, you just got to remember that all of your content's in the background like that, stacking up like those quarters, just waiting to get pushed off the edge by, whatever, by an algorithm tweak or by somebody who finds it or whatever. And so I love that so much. And the other piece of that around just like, when we get so obsessed around, and everyone does it, I actually think it's just part of like coming of age as an entrepreneur, like having a moment or a season of being really into all the metrics. But when we get into that, we start to like second guess what we're saying. And the problem with that is that like people need to hear the message that we have. And some people can only hear it from us. They need to hear our voice being authentic, telling them X, Y, and Z about whatever we're experts in. And when we're like massaging that message for the algorithm, it clouds it up. They can't hear it as clearly as they need to, right? So I love that you share that vulnerably here, because it is something that I think every entrepreneur endures, grows through, navigates, is like, how do I let these metrics mean like absolutely nothing about the value that I deliver?
That's right. Yeah. It's that comparative game that gets a little tricky.
Oh,
And yeah, letting it go. And I also remember too that the more I'm myself online, the
mhm.
more I'm going to attract the clients that are meant to be a good fit with me, because
Exactly.
doula work is super intimate, as you can imagine. And I want somebody to feel like they know what they're paying for,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And the more I can be myself, the more I feel like my prospective clients can get a sense for my vibe too. So
Yeah. Oh, I'm so into that. That's so good. Well, with such a wild schedule and being a parent, I mean, you've got two littles under the age of 10 and you're, kind of like at the beck and call of your clients whenever birth decides to happen. I'm curious if you have any daily non-negotiables, stuff that you try to do day in and day out to stay grounded. And if you do, what are they?
mhm. I have so many. I am like the daily non-negotiable queen. I have massive boundaries when it comes to my self-care, and it's only because I learned the hard way through an early motherhood of giving over too much too
Mm,
often and not
mm,
being true to my needs and thinking
mm,
that they mattered enough.
mm,
My friends actually comment on this about me a lot, and I realize that like a lot of other moms don't have the kind of boundaries that I do.
mhm.
I don't know how they don't. I don't feel like I could sustain motherhood
Yeah.
without them. And that's just me being honest.
Mhm,
If I'm not at a birth, my daily non negotiables are that I have to have quiet time in the morning. I wake up really
mhm,
early. I'm like one of those 5 a.m. kind of natural wake up
mhm.
girls. And I have my quiet cup of coffee and my time and my gratitude and get some work done too, a lot of times in
Yeah.
those early hours. And I savor it. It's my favorite. I
Mm,
also move my body every day, but I don't take it too seriously. I'm not like a workout
mm,
queen, but I know that I feel better in my mind, body, and soul if I just like go on a walk or
yeah.
stretch. So I keep it really simple, really low stakes, but I do need to move my body every day. And then I put my kids to bed before 8 o'clock every day. And
Mhm,
my daughter is almost 8 and she's
mhm.
still allowing this to happen. So I don't know how long this is going to go on, but
Mhm.
that sacred time between kids asleep and me going to sleep
And you
with my
asleep.
with my
Mhm.
partner, with my husband, is
Mm,
like that's very special for our marriage and our
mhm.
connection.
Yeah.
And so we've done that since the beginning. Actually, when they were really little, their bedtime was 6:30, and I'm not kidding.
I love it. I think it's so valuable. Well, it's interesting. Like I co-parent and step parent a young woman who's a teenager now. She's 15. But I mean, when she was that age, 8, 9, 10, we would be like, okay, well, like it's bedtime, 8:30, 9 o'clock. You don't have to go to sleep right now, but you need to be like in your bed. You can be reading in your bed. You can be, like you need to be in your bed resting, even if you're not like asleep yet. And that was really useful. And the same, it like was really useful for and helpful for me and my husband to have the space after bedtime before we fell asleep ourselves. I love that boundary. I think that's so
Yeah,
smart.
super firm on that. And we're also really firm that no kids come into bed at night.
Hmm.
I don't hear that
Love
all the
this.
time, but that is just another like marriage boundary that we've
Hmm.
decided. I mean, of course, if they're like very sick, they can come
Yeah.
in, but we don't play games around that. It's like a
Yeah.
pretty hard line. And if there is an exception, it's like on our terms, not their terms.
Yeah.
So we do create these tight boundaries for this, like
Mm.
the mental health of the entire family. And we
Mm.
think all our needs matter a lot. So
Mm.
I don't know if it's right, wrong, whatever, but it's working for
Sounds
our
good.
family. And it's
Yeah.
how I've figured out how to sustain this crazy life.
I love it so much. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I don't know
Yeah.
where the time went. It flew. I want to know if you can. I know it's not that I want to know. Can you tell us where to find you?
Yeah, so I am an Instagrammer. I post almost daily. You can find me at Doula Kelly Rae, and that's Doula Kelly with a Y, Rae. And you can find my website, kelly-ray.com. And that's where I also have listed the free birth plan template and the mini course called the Birth Plan Formula. And then I have a YouTube channel. It's called No More Birth Better. And you can just search that on YouTube. You can be my 25th view of my
Come on.
video last
Come
week.
on.
Woo!
I love it. Well, thank you so much for that. We'll make sure to link everything in the show notes. And Kelly, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all of this, like just wealth of knowledge about birth and birthing. I learned so much. I know my listeners did too. If you are listening, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Make sure you send this episode to somebody who needs to hear what Kelly had to say. I know that you know somebody who needs to hear it. And in the meantime, we are sending you lots of love and light. XOXO to the max.